Let's get started because this news isn't going to break itself. Which, now that I think of it, is technically not true because the news has already been broken. We don't break any news on this. We are parasites of the gaming industry. We read the news and then we literally read articles and then recycle opinions. I don't know why I'm starting so negative on our own.
We consume
show.
it and then we regurgitate it into the mouths of our viewers and listeners.
That's right. The backup is the Regurgitating podcast where we talk about the most hard-hitting news of the week as long as it's related to video games. There is no sport talk here. This back podcast is basically the European Super League of gaming podcasts, insofar as none of us really earned our way here. We just made this program ourselves, and we're all going to pull out because no one is really happy doing this.
This is that Manchester thing, isn't it?
The what?
This is that Manchester thing you were raving about the other day?
Raving about. My goodness.
I didn't pay attention to it. Okay, I'm just double checking that's what it was a reference to.
Yes,
Pete gets it as well.
It was.
How can they be Manchester United and also Manchester City? Manchester is not united.
No, you're right. And if you would like, we could talk about that for 45 minutes instead of gaming news. But I just made a promise that this is just about gaming news. And I made that promise to hero pocketeer Tim from the Learn Programming Academy. Get your exclamation mark Tims out in the chat because the Learn Programming Academy offers classes covering the entire range of programming that are easy to watch for all skill levels. They're almost all $20 or less. My goodness, the things that Tim could teach you, including programming. But I'm sure he's got a lot of other skills and secrets that he wants to part with you as well. Head to lpa.dev/backpocket to download the entire custom backpocket info guide on everything Tim has to offer and become the coding genius you didn't always know you were. I'll tell you who needs a coding genius: Sony, because they're going to need to figure out some way to keep the PS3 and PS Vita stores going because they announced that they will not be shutting them down in a severe turnaround. Owen S. Good from Polygon writes, the PlayStation Store for PlayStation 3 and PlayStation Vita will not shut down, Sony announced last Monday, reversing a decision that left many players wondering what would happen to their digital content on the legacy platforms. Jim Ryan, Sony Interactive Entertainment's president, said in a post on the PlayStation blog, quote, "It's clear we made the wrong decision here. When we initially came to the decision to end purchasing support for PS3 and Vita, it was born out of a number of factors, including commerce support challenges for older devices and the ability for us to focus more of our resources on newer devices where a majority of our gamers are playing on. We see now that many of you are incredibly passionate about being able to continue purchasing classic games on PS3 and PS Vita for the foreseeable future, so I'm glad we were able to find a solution to continue operations. However, the PSP store will be closed down as originally planned. Already, PSP owners had very limited access to the storefront, which has not been supported since 2014. Angus Ronald, is this the right move for Sony? Are you happy that they made the about face?
It's the right move, but the way they've dressed it up is total bullshit, in my opinion. The way they've put that statement out, that's all to do with the fact that they're like, we originally made this choice based on allocation of resources and, budget and where our direction as a company was going. It's like, no, they, like any company that brings out new consoles or new platforms, they want to move all their user base onto those, and to support the old ones is just seen as customers that aren't buying their newer products. So for me, it just sounds like they weren't probably expecting the amount of backlash they were going to get. I heard about this everywhere. It was totally popping up in news stories, podcasts. People were rushing to buy games on their Vita and to use up their PS credits or whatever the currency is there because they were told they were going to disappear. So yeah, I think maybe they weren't expecting such a reaction, and it obviously didn't take a lot of resources or a lot of effort to walk it back. Again, doesn't really explain what they need to keep running these servers and that sort of stuff, but it can't be much. So
I think it's one of those things where it's like it requires some resources, and in a world where they've got a lot that they need to do to say like the PS5 store, and so anyone not working on the PS5 store and instead working on, because you got to work on, they mentioned the commerce support, so there's probably some sort of like credit card stuff that needs to be maintained or changed. You need to have support staff there for when people can't buy something and have an issue, and it's one of those things where it's like the money coming in is not worth the resources they're putting into it. But it's definitely like for them to make this decision, I'm quite surprised that they didn't see the backlash coming, because I think it's not even about necessarily, or at least for me, like it wasn't about the fact that I haven't played my Vita in years, I haven't played my PSP in years, and haven't played my PlayStation 3 in years. I will not be buying any titles on any of those platforms, but all I buy now are digital titles. I don't buy anything physical, and so it's more about like, well, all these PlayStation 5 games that I'm buying at the moment. Does this mean that I will just lose, like if I lose access to the store at some point, that's going to, it kind of implies that I'm going to lose access to the games at some point, even though that's not what they were doing here in the first place. But if you want me to buy into your totally digital future, and I mean, Sony even have a digital only console, then I think you need to do the legwork, even if it costs you a bit of money and you make a bit of a loss on that part of the business to maintain these digital stores for as long as you are a company providing video game services.
It's an interesting point about the digital-only console, because that is something that has come out as a sort of secondary piece of hardware that they're trying to encourage, that this is the direction we're all going with digital-only. But yeah, to then make this move as well, which kind of undercuts just some of the good faith you might have for the long-term investment in this thing you're buying, as half of their consoles are going to be, or I assume half, I'm sure it's less. But yeah, it's like, hey, have faith in it. But here we are just now like putting out to pasture these old digital online stores, which, yeah, I know with that new direction means that there will probably be, like, I think we're going to see like PS3 games ported, like classics ported over to the online store for the PS5. But the problem is, for me, it's always those obscure ones that get left behind. It's like not everything will come across. So the sad part is some of those obscure PS3 games that they don't think are popular enough to then make ports of, or to upgrade, or to bring across. So yeah, I saw a lot of people mentioning, they're like, quick, rush out now and get, I think I even saw it here on the overlay of like, get Tokyo Jungle now because it'll be gone. And it's like, they're never going to make a remake of that for PS5. So they're like, if that disappears in the store and there's no physical copies anymore, then yeah, it's going to become something that's hard to hunt down. So
it's also just awkward timing of going like, we're shutting down our legacy consoles and you can't buy our new console. It's like, it's just a weird optics window to be like, everyone's mad at your company because they can't buy your new console. And if they have an old console, you're like, well, we're going to stop supporting that one. It's like, well, we're kind of being left in the dust here.
Yeah, I was thinking about the people most affected by this, and there's obviously the retro gamers, that sort of thing. But the real thing I was thinking of was like hospitals and waiting rooms in bulk billing doctors and that sort of thing, where it's like, we have a PS3 here. And this is the only the only thing that we have. It's plugged into a 4:3 CRT television via an HDMI to RGB splitter or something, and this is like the one thing that we have to like keep people amused. So that I feel like continuing to be able to buy new titles on that is important. And as you said, lost titles that people might not be familiar with. I don't think we're going to see a port anytime soon of Holy Invasion of Privacy Badman. What did they do to deserve this? But we should, and until that day, you should be able to continue to buy that title, even though now you won't be able to because it's PSP, and I don't think they put it on the Vita. Anyway,
that game title needs more at the start of it to emphasize that it's a game title, because you roll straight into that sentence sometimes too naturally that I feel like I've had a small stroke and I'm like, what is happening?
The sequel of the game was, I think it was called Holy Invasion of Privacy Badman 2: Time to Tighten Up Security. What a series, my goodness. Pretty big turnaround for Sony. We've been speaking about it, like, when do they get the win? This is not the win. I think this is a draw, then negating the loss. But I think it's the right move optically for them to be making. Something that could be a win at some point in the future for Sony is something that's happening in Poland right now, because if you live in Poland and you have PlayStation Plus, you are getting something from PlayStation, and that is movies and television shows as part of your subscription. Joe Scrabbles from IGN writes that Sony has confirmed that the PlayStation Pass Video Pass very confusing title, is a trial service running in Poland for a year and will offer 21 movies and TV shows and no extra cost to PlayStation Plus subscribers. Speaking to Spider's Web, Sony's Nick McGuire explains that the pass comes in the form of a PS4/PS5 app, which initially allows PS Plus subscribers to watch 21 movies and TV shows. McGuire says new titles will be added to the list every 3 months as opposed to 1 month, a la the video games. And there's no change to the PS Plus price in Poland as of now. I'm seeing in chat, Ninja Boy says 21. What are the 21? Oh, I can tell you what the 21 are.
Perfect. Oh. Before you do, Nick, I thought, Pete, you can play along. This is purely a visual. I guess it's a visual thing. That's not great for podcasts, so we can make audio ones as well. I was going to suggest, Nick, you go through the list, and I'm either going to give it a thumbs up or a thumbs down based on my rating on what I think of that title, because I think it's a mixed bag here entirely.
Okay, you could just say up or down.
Pete?
Yeah, and I will give it a certified fresh or certified rotten.
Excellent, cool. This is a great way to extend the length of this show. PS Plus movies, first up, Bloodshot.
Certified rotten.
Great.
Wait, Bloodshot is that Vin Diesel one?
Yeah, it's actually really fun.
Certified rotten. That was awful.
Jumanji: The Next Level.
Certified fresh.
Zombieland 2 Double Tap.
Yeah, certified flatbread.
Charlie's Angels, You Had Me, 2019. You lost me.
I liked it.
Haven't seen it. Flatbread.
Venom.
Flatbread, haven't seen it. It's probably shit.
The Equalizer 2. Baby
Jason
Driver.
Ding. Yeah, certified fresh.
Blade Runner 2049.
Certified fresh.
Ding, 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 ding.
Underworld Blood Wars.
I haven't seen an Underworld film since... And I haven't Frozen. I don't remember. A long time.
Arrival.
So. Great.
Oh, very good. Very good.
Certified fresh.
Sausage Party.
Haven't seen.
Ding. I went ding.
What?
What?
American Hustle.
Certified fresh? That's pretty good.
Nah.
This Is the End.
I hated that I liked it, but ding.
Don't remember it.
And
that was
Bad Boys. 1995.
The original?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's
Boys
definitely
won.
flatbread.
Peter! No, Bad Boys 1 is not flatbread. Bad Boys 1 is a...
Show me a Michael Bay film that's not flatbread.
Bad Boys 1.
No, it doesn't exist.
Yeah. Did
Maybe
he direct
The Rock.
Con Air?
Bad Boys
Maybe
1 is
The
right.
Rock.
You're a bad person, Peter.
So that is the movies that they're adding. It is a very strange collection of films. Any collection of films that gets you like Bad Boys and Blade Runner 2049 and Arrival. But there you go. And then the TV shows, Future Man seasons 1 to 3, Supermansion seasons 1 to 3, Community Gus seasons 1 to 6, Deadly Class season 1, SWAT seasons 1 and 2, and Lost Girl seasons 1 to 5. Community is the only one there that I think is worthy.
It's the only one I know
of watching. Is this something that you want to see here, Pete? Do you lack for subscription services? For
I
video
sure
content?
as hell don't. I think it's good to get extras with your PS Plus subscription. It'd be cool to see some kind of license deals come to Australia as well. But no, I don't think. Look, maybe I'm wrong here, but I don't think they're ever going to replace a Netflix or Stan or Amazon Prime in terms of the amount of content available on them. So while it's nice to have some extras to go along with your PS Plus subscription, which you were probably going to get anyway if you want to play COD, then it's like it's just a bonus. Can't complain.
I would personally say Amazon's an interesting thing to bring up because I would like to see us move towards the future where I get extra shows, movies attached to all my services, so I then don't need a dedicated streaming service just for shows. So I use Amazon just for the deliveries and Prime and everything like that. And then I remember that I have Amazon Prime Video. And so I jump on that and watch movies and TV shows based on what's there. And I'm like, if PlayStation does this and say if Xbox followed suit, I'd probably start losing all my dedicated streaming, my stands, my binges, even my Netflix possibly, or just keep one of them and then just know that this stuff will exist attached to something else that I subscribe to because everything's a bloody subscription service these days. So that's me optimistically hoping that everything does this.
Yeah, interesting. That sounds like hell to me. I just want them to be in one spot. There's already too many.
It's never going to happen, though.
I hate how I have to go to Just Watch every time I'm like, where can I see this thing? Yeah. And then it's like which one of these have I not logged into on my Apple TV that I need to now reactivate or whatever? Yeah, I think Pete, like you said, anything additional, sure. It's an interesting thing that they're trying. Obviously, it's like super localized at the moment. I think that the main thing though is that it's nothing that you can't get anywhere else, and that's like, again, that's the Game Pass thing, is that you go like, well, these
they don't have
things,
powers.
This is where the first things come out. They don't have the TV show power. Oh, that's right. They had powers. That's what I'm talking about, Pete. Bring Powers back.
Bring it back. 6 seasons in a movie.
On that list.
I'm looking forward to when Just Watch become a subscription service, and like I'd pay $150. I was going to say I'd pay like $100 a month if Just Watch had everything on it. Like I'd pay a stupid amount if there was something that just amalgamated everything into one place. I'd overcharge.
Like you're paying for all the subscriptions, and then they pay those services, those subscriptions, and then they take a clip on the top. That's what you're looking for. Yeah, that's not a bad idea. I mean, for a millionaire like yourself, for the rest of us, I think we'll just have to settle with watching Bloodshot as part of our Polish PS Plus subscription.
It holds up.
Can you get yourself a Polish credit card and a Polish PlayStation account? And sneak through the back door to get...
Yeah, totally, yeah. So I can finally watch season 2 of SWAT. All right, something that I think is very cool coming to a service, the Epic Game Store is getting some apps as part of it. That's less exciting. But itch.io is one of the apps that you can download on Epic now, totally free. Anna Diaz from Polygon writes that the indie online storefront itch.io is coming as a downloadable app to the Epic Game Store. Yes, you read that correctly, or in this case, heard it correctly. The digital storefront itch.io, a popular platform distributing indie games of all shapes and sizes, is coming to a different storefront, along with a handful of other PC apps. This is, I think that it's not necessarily a huge deal because itch.io already have a desktop launcher, and that's what this is. It's basically just installing that launcher onto the Epic Game Store. But what it is again a signaling in the same way as Core, which we spoke about last week, in the same way as the Unreal Engine not charging until you make $1 million in revenue. I think this is all goodwill towards indie devs from Unreal and Epic, saying basically we want to be supporting you as much as a massive multi-billion-dollar company can support.
We want to support you making us money.
Exactly. Yeah. Which is actually what they're trying to do. But I'm really excited by this because there's tons of awesome games on itch.io that now potentially will get more of a look in because it's on a huge storefront that has over 31.3 million active daily users. And so now the 200,000 titles from itch.io will be put in front of those Epic customers' eyes. Gus, you love quirky little indie games, even though you rarely talk about them on the Thursday show.
It's just cotton baseball every week.
Do you reckon that Itch is going to see a bump in this? Do you like the move from Epic?
Yeah, I think, as you said, it already has a desktop app. I have that app, so it's like I don't. And as you mentioned, that's going to go away, I assume, as part of this move. Like it's going to be the only way I'm going to be able to access it via app versus online. I assume is through the Epic Store.
Wait, you mean the itch.io desktop app will go away?
I'm assuming so.
I don't think so.
That's not my understanding, no. I think it's more, so from Itch's perspective, it's like, it's putting their app in front of the multiple million people that visit the Epic Store.
Right, so in that case, yeah, this is not how I'm not going to boot up Epic to go through there, but that's as someone who, already accesses it remotely. But I think it's, exactly. I think a lot of people don't, and indies as well are these things that need as much sort of to be broadcasted to a wider audience for them to gain the popularity they so often deserve, because they're usually delightful ideas that need to have bigger audiences. So yeah, I think it's great. I think it's a good place for it to be. And you know, Epic, we talked about them the other week. Like they're becoming now this more sort of like less of a direct competitor to something like Steam, and having an app store that like caters to another indie market or something, I think is a clever way to do it. So yeah, I'm all for it. More charming indies for more quirky indie players like myself.
It's a weird barrier to me of being like, sorry, I've got my fucking phone on my arm and it vibrated. It's a weird barrier for me to be downloading an app store from an app store, and then I go, well, I'm going to pay the same amount for the games, I assume, because otherwise why would I buy it through there? But then the devs get less of a cut because Epic takes their slice. So it's like, this is the kind of thing that I would see, and I do this all the time, like even from Amazon and stuff. I'll see something on Amazon and then I'll go to the store page of the store rather than buy it through Amazon, kind of thing.
Yeah,
so it's like, oh, well then Amazon don't get their clip, and that's nice.
Epic aren't actually taking a cut on
That's
these
what
games.
I thought. Yeah.
Yeah.
Are they?
It's confirmed. Sorry, it's confirmed that basically users will download itch onto the store as they would like a normal game. Once it's downloaded and you launch it, it's its own thing. So they're not going to take a cut from the percentage of any of these sales.
What the hell is the point?
I think it's just a good
bigger reach.
Yeah, it's just going like, we want, like, I do think that part of Epic's long-term strategy is being like, they're a game engine dev, and their thing is like, we want to become the place that people come to make games, and the itch is just this playground of ideas, like you said, Gus. And so I think it's just, I think it's literally just a goodwill move that cost them nothing, because they're basically just hosting a repository to download
a
this
30
app.
megabyte executable.
Totally. And I didn't even know that itch had an app. I always go through the website. I'm sure there's a button on there that can download. I downloaded this from the Epic Store, and it even just installs things for you, as opposed to like downloading the zip file that you unzip and then put somewhere and play. So it removes a bit of friction from searching the website as well. So
Yeah, and also, like, as I mentioned, if they're setting up Epic to be more than just a Gamefront store with other apps and things like that, this is a good way to get you just familiar with that sort of ecosystem of how, that you can install an app through the launcher and use it for different things. So, as I said, it's a goodwill move, but it's also like, it just gets people in that space and using it for the reason.
I'm also seeing a couple of people in chat. A couple of people in chat, but I'll say my favorite name, which is Ratbag Beetlebum, says that this is just a middle finger to Apple, which I totally agree with as well. It's basically like, oh, you don't like us selling things in your walled garden. We have our own walled garden, and we'll put in other apps. We'll put other gardens in our garden, and we won't even take a clip off those gardens. So it's literally just like, we've got other storefronts in here. Why won't you let us do the same thing? So if you're looking to peruse itch.io, as I encourage you to do, then the Epic Game Store is a place where you can get that app. Someone who may have a little more time on their hands to peruse some promising indie titles is a promising indie developer himself, and that is Jeff Kaplan, because last week he announced that he is leaving Blizzard. Michael McWhorter from Polygon reports that Overwatch game director Jeff Kaplan is leaving Blizzard Entertainment. The company announced the personnel change on the game's official website on Tuesday, naming Aaron Keller, Overwatch assistant game director, as Kaplan's replacement in the role. Kaplan was frequently the public face of Overwatch, appearing front and center in developer update videos at BlizzCon and at Overwatch League events. Blizzard did not specify why he was leaving, nor did Kaplan himself in a statement released on the Overwatch website. The statement says, quote, "I am leaving Blizzard Entertainment after 19 amazing years. It was truly the honor of a lifetime to have the opportunity to create worlds and heroes for such a passionate audience. I want to express my deep appreciation to everyone at Blizzard who supported our games, our game teams, and our players. But I want to say a special thanks to the wonderful game developers that shared in the journey of creation with me. Never accept the world as it appears to be. Always dare to see it for what it could be. I hope you do the same." Gus.
Lovely.
Overwatch. Blizzard.
Indie developer Jeff Kaplan.
Yeah. How do you feel about Kaplan bailing out here?
Is it strange that, like, I guess maybe it's like film and games. Like, what other industries do we have where we really demand a reason for someone like a senior head of that company or someone in a position that's worked for, did you say 9 or 19?
19.
9 years.
19.
19 years somewhere to be like, I'm ready to move on, whether it's another business venture, whether it's to retire. Like, why are we like, he gave no reason for leaving other than a message? It's like, we don't earn that right as the consumer to need to know why people make these decisions. So I'm going to say that and also in the current culture of just like, there's always got to be a bad reason for someone doing something. It's like, I'm just going to assume he's either been like, he's decided to shift workforce and go somewhere else, or maybe, he's just going to move into some form of retirement. So I don't think it reflects in any way on Blizzard or the game or the upcoming Overwatch 2. I think my immediate response was like, maybe he's hating the direction they're going with 2, with delays and the way it's an unnecessary sequel. But I quickly let that wash away, as I thought, like, nah, it's just like, good on him. They had a good innings and like made an amazing game and put together a big group of amazing developers around them to make another game. And so, wish him all the best, I guess. Like, what do you think there's a reason to speculate over this outside of just it's a headline?
Yeah, I mean, I think the reason that people do speculate about video games and films when a director leaves is that it's a creative thing, and this person is a key creative involved in it, and they've left the project for some reason. Jeff Kaplan is like, he's left an amazing legacy for Overwatch, and I don't think there's anything weird going on here. But it's like, it's the same kinds of things, like you said. You speculate, does he not like the direction of Overwatch? Just people want to get clarity on that, and I think that's fair. It's like when a director gets kicked off a film, you want to know why. Why was his direction?
Yeah, but a film is something that is made in like a slightly more consolidated amount of time and has a start, middle, and end. Like a game studio, the second they finish the one they're on, probably before they finish it, they're going to start on the next one. So it's just a perpetual thing where there's always going to be something in the works. And for them to leave and be like, is it because of the current thing in the works? I think is probably, I just saw some rumors and people tweeting about it being like, does this say a lot about Overwatch 2? Whereas like a film, you can finish, you can walk away. I agree with your point. In the middle of a film, when the director walks or is fired, that shows like there's some, turbulence in the creative process. But for games, I think, I think it's a different style of direction. And I don't think there's as much to read into it or as to compare with film directing as much.
I think the thing is that I do think that he made himself the face of Overwatch in a way that we hadn't seen in ages of people. Like Blizzard sort of did this with a couple of the games. Ben Brode taking on Hearthstone, Kaplan had Overwatch as being like, you are the figurehead behind this. It was like Cliff Bleszinski style, like. He was never taking credit as the auteur of it, but he was like the face of it. I think when you've got the sequel to a game that he announced that he was working on and stuff that is like both anticipated and also people are curious as to like why it's happening this way and what it's going to be, for him to leave halfway through that process, it's like the person who has pegged himself as the Overwatch guy is leaving the Overwatch project, I think is cause for curiosity, I suppose. But then the other part of this is the fact that yes, like you're right. Yeah, I think you're totally right that like 19 years is a long time to be working in one place. But also, Blizzard have just been on like a talent leak over the last few years, and all those names of people who are important to Blizzard, not only because they were important to Blizzard, but also because they were quite iconically faces of Blizzard products, whether they founded the company or were just like game directors and stuff, leaving that company. And Blizzard has always been a company that has gone, it was kind of like, once you get a job at Blizzard, you don't leave, because it's the dream job in video games. It is the reason that you got into video games, was to work at Blizzard, and not only to make the products that Blizzard make, but also because like the culture at Blizzard was supposed to be phenomenal. If the benefits were supposed to, like, everything about that job was just like the perfect thing. And it was like, it almost took on cult status of just like, you go in there. And again, I think it's totally fair to go like, after 19 years, peace, I'm out. But I would so not be surprised if after 6 months on the dot of like you can't join another game company for X amount of time, whenever that period runs out, he is joining Ben Brode at Second Breakfast, or he's joining Mike Morhaim's new game dev. Like, I am so sure I would put money on the fact that Jeff Kaplan is going to work with another Blizzard dev, because it's like, I can't do that. I can't do what I want to do at Blizzard anymore. I'm going to go do it somewhere else.
Yeah, fair enough.
I saw Pete nodding, so I'm going to take that.
Yeah, I was nodding.
Total support.
I I agree that it's like you don't leave Blizzard when you're 1 year away from the 20-year anniversary gift that they give you, which would
exactly
at 20 years, like you're getting a fucking replica of like Arthur's sword or something. Like you're getting something crazy.
You're getting
one of those big statues from the parking lot. That they have, like those huge.
You're getting a full-size Tauren chieftain to put in your bedroom.
I'm trying to look. Okay, so I could tell you. So 2 years you get the Stein. 5 years you get a sword. 10 years you get a shield. 15 years you get a ring. 20 years is that
you get
Arthur's
the company
mask? Yeah, you get the company. Yeah, that's why. So he's 1 year away from getting a mask. Which the amount of money he's got, he could just go buy his own mask. But I'm sure there's also some sort of like he's cashed out a bunch of stock, and I just think that if it was another company, I would probably be less inquisitive as to what's going on. But it just seems to be the trend for Blizzard of these people.
I love that their anniversary gifts for their employees are still kind of like pre-order bonuses. It's like totally, 20 years I get a mask, and it's like it's kind of plasticky crap. I shouldn't have waited 20 years for this. I'll just sell it on eBay.
You want 20 years? It's a Tesla. Like, give me something that actually costs you money, and not just something you have in a storeroom waiting to give me. All right, let's move on now. Speaking of costing a company money, CDProjekt Red, a company well familiar with both the making and losing of money, it turns out refunded 30,000 copies of Cyberpunk, which is a lot of copies of Cyberpunk, but not nearly as many copies of Cyberpunk as they sold, which was 13 million. Cass Marshall from Polygon writes, Cyberpunk 2077's disastrous launch led to a few refunds, according to CDProjekt Red CFO, who shared details on the situation during an earnings call with investors. The dystopian cyberpunk RPG sold 13.7 million copies, but the developer only issued 30,000 refunds. Players were also able to get refunds through Sony and Microsoft, which were not included in this tally. In December 2020, Sony not only offered full refunds for customers, but also removed the game from the PlayStation Store. It's yet to return, despite patches that have fixed hundreds of bugs with varying levels of success. CDProjekt Red set up a Help Me Refund program to help dissatisfied customers, which cost them approximately $2.17 million for them to basically have a call center that just says go to the website and click that big refund button. 95% of those refunds have been processed, and on the call it was explained that the final 5% of refunds are currently being processed but are taking longer due to complications. Despite these issues, the Polish developer enjoyed a profitable 2020, taking in over $560 million, assume US, in revenue. Future updates for Cyberpunk 2077 are currently in development. Pete, I think from all of the talk, and they do say that Sony and Microsoft copies were not included in this, but I would have expected this total to be much higher, considering how much it was a story about the idea of like people refunding.
Yeah, I think like the same as anything that is big on Twitter, it's only big on Twitter. It's like it's not as big a deal as we think it is. Totally. Of course, it's a big deal that the game was just a mess at launch. But in terms of people having the energy to go through a refund process, when I think a lot of people still have a lot of goodwill towards CDProjekt and we're just like, well, I'll just wait till it's good. I think if there's 30,000 refunds, then there's another 200,000 people who are like, I haven't even played it yet because it's still a buggy mess.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think like obviously 30,000 refunded copies isn't a huge chink in the armor of the $3 million copy kitty that they sold or whatever it was.
13 million.
13 million. They're fine. They're financially fine. But yeah, it was like I think as well the 30,000 seems small, but is also probably big because it was talked about a lot and because they implemented systems to make it easy for people and encouraged people to do it. And I think that was a pretty good about face from them to react that quickly to put something like that together.
Kara in the chat, who works at a video game store, said, I feel like I had 30,000 copies returned to me personally. I'm sure that people...
Anyone who played on PS4.
Yeah. Totally, yeah.
So that was me. Yeah, I was going to make the point
of that's the fact right, you did!
To not include the digital sales for Xbox One, I assume, and PS4, which is what I booted up initially. And yeah, I got a refund through the PS Store because it was disastrously unplayable. And so I wonder, I'm just therefore assuming that there were more people in my situation than taking back physical copies or returning PC copies. So I wonder, because they were the ones that, like, yes, the game was buggy, but you could still play through those bugs if it was performing well. It was unplayable on PS4. It was, I actually got to a point where I'm like, I can push through all sorts of issues, but I was like at 10 to 5 frames per second frame rate, just hard crashes, all this kind of stuff. So I wonder whether or not that figure doubles or something if you did include those other numbers. Because they were the ones that I remember reading and seeing and actually experiencing the most the most sort of noise around the problems with the game. So
yeah, it's funny. Like, imagine if even if that figure multiplied tenfold, you're still not even hitting 500,000 copies returned.
Yeah, it's such even that number reading it initially, I was like 30,000. Wow, out of what was it,
13.7 million.
13.7 million. I'm terrible with numbers, so I did that like 30,000 out of 13 million. That's,
I don't even know what that is.
No response. Like, yeah, I haven't frozen either. It was like, that is like, yeah, it's a drop in the ocean, so to speak. But as Pete mentioned, it's like, it made the most noise, and like that, you wonder what that has as a flow-on effect for the credit of the company and just the sort of how people feel about this game in the general consensus. Like, even the people who don't play it, just knowing that news story about how buggy it was and how shit it ran. But yeah, it's just an interesting thing to see how much the loudest noise on Twitter and something does have an effect still in the long run.
Really... Sorry, you go, Pete.
I was just going to say, I think this week, The Witcher 3 hit another milestone, multiple of millions copies sold. You know, it's like, it's like, it was obviously a bad launch, but I think the way that CDProjekt look at it, it's got a long tail on it. This is my footage of me in Cyberpunk doing a cheat to get heaps of money, which was, if you go to a post box, you can sell a really expensive item and then buy it back for 5 gold and then sell it again. Yeah, so it's like they should be 30,000, 60,000, 300,000. They should be feeling the shame of...
Your footage is amazing. I'm so sorry. Can you roll that back? I apologize. You can keep talking. I won't make another point out of it, but just for Nick's sake as well. Go on, Pete.
They should be feeling that, like, this is a sting. Like, this is like, to get 30,000, even if it was 30,000 flat, to get 30,000 people to hand your game back in, like, to be that upset about it, I think is like that's the biggest smear against the CDProjekt name that they're going to get. So they've got a lot of work to do to sell those 30,000 copies again with updates, but also to just like recoup a lot of the face that they lost with all this.
Can I just go on a small quick segue? Just when you mentioned the amount of noise this made, or like serving the fact that on Twitter and online there was just this huge response, I thought it was really interesting. Just the other day they mentioned about the Snyder Cut and HBO and how there was so much noise around that and how it was people demanding it. And they've said like it led to a fairly insubstantial amount of new subscribers for HBO Max. So it's like... Yeah, it was only like 2.7 million subscribers joined, which was like, again, nothing by what they were projecting, and in contrast to how much noise was being made. And so I think similarly here, if you think this number is small, the 30,000, compared to how much we were reading about it, seeing it, everyone was demanding they're all going to take their copies back. It is just a testament to how much like just... putting your ear to the ground on the internet and listening to the amount of like kerfuffle there is about something doesn't always actually result in those figures being in the real world.
Yeah, I think I think Pete, you're spot on with that idea of like the dent to their reputation is the more costly thing. Like the refunds are a drop in the bucket, but the dent of people doing that is an issue. The conversation over Cyberpunk, I feel like over the last month 2 months maybe has been, is it worth them continuing to support it? They came out and said that they're not focusing on the multiplayer at the moment, and that potentially is not going to be something that is going to be their like biggest priority moving forward. Whereas before it was like, oh, it's coming this year and blah, blah, blah. And I think that there were lots of people, and myself included, of going like, I just think you should give up on this and go make something else good. But when you look at the idea that, like you said, reputation control and going like, okay, yes, we may be the company that made a bad game, arguably lied to you about how that game runs on current gen platforms, but we're also the company that made good on that, even if it took 2 years, and made the game decent, is one thing. But then the other thing is that you go, well, you've still sold 13 million copies. So there's a huge player base out there of people who own that game that you can still talk to. And if you, like, from the cynical side, if you make that game good, then A, that multiplayer becomes more viable, and B, maybe there's a world where you can continue to support it with content, and suddenly you have a player base of 13 million people out there, and you go, hey, we've got a 6-hour campaign coming as DLC 4 years after the game launched, and it's like a little mini game in between their big titles.
Yeah, I mean, I really enjoyed my time in the game, and I'm keen for more content. So I think it would be, and they don't plan to charge for the DLC that's coming out, that's on the immediate runway. So I think like that's going to appease the people that had maybe a rougher time than I did going through it, to maybe play a smoother version of the game with some new content in a few months' time, and be like, okay, cool. I feel like not my only thoughts about Cyberpunk aren't now just like anger and frustration. They're I had some fun with those moments, and so it's not all like just a sour point for them.
So we'll see how they go moving forward, but yeah, it's interesting getting an insight into those amount of refunds. And even though it is a small amount, like 30k is still a ton of people returning a PC copy of the game. And as you said, Gus, that's the version of the game that worked the best. Finally, something that when you buy it, you're definitely not going to want to return it. Ubisoft announced Assassin's Creed, Mr. Men and Little Miss books. This is the weirdest story we've had in a while. And I wanted to point out a website I love, Rock Paper Shotgun. The writing there is always very funny. Alice O'Connor continues her amazing work with the reporting on this story. Quote, it's a little known fact that Ubisoft generate product ideas by writing game names, mediums, target audiences, and such on scraps of paper, popping them in a big hat, then drawing a handful to discover their next big hit. This foolproof system recently produced the combination of Assassin's Creed book for children, but really for parents, Mr. Men crossover, leading Ubisoft yesterday to announce a series of Mr. Men and Little Miss books starring the murderers of Assassin's Creed. Quote, by mixing the Assassin's Creed sense of adventure and history with the colorful and delightful designs of the Little Mr. Men, these books will appeal to both young and adult readers, Ubisoft say in their announcement. Follow Mr. Ezio, Little Miss Cassandra, and Little Miss Eivor, notably choosing the female version of Eivor for the books, as they try to complete their own missions in the first 3 books of this series. Mr. Men and Little Miss have been a pop culture trash fire for a while. This is back to the RPS article, and this is not the official Ubisoft statement. Along with books based on Doctor Who, it has a for grown-ups line, including books about office parties and online dating. Ubisoft announced a load of other new Assassin's Creed novels, graphic novels, and things yesterday too. These are all more conventional, but who knows? Maybe tomorrow they'll draw rabbits plus beach plus formal wear from the hat, or even Beyond Good and Evil plus video game.
Nice. Very well written.
Gus,
snark.
You're going to buy these for your niece and then keep them for yourself?
No, I'm not.
Wow.
Get this away from a treasured childhood memory of mine. I get that it's funny to look at these drawings, but this is at its core like ruining something that I hold very dear to me, which is the Mr. Men books, Little Miss and Mr. Men. I had a heap of them, and I just think they're a really charming, innocent thing. And I did really, as the article mentions, I hate seeing all these kind of like, well, you read them when you were a kid, now let's see the online dating version of one of them that's like really
now watch them
for grown-ups. Now watch them fuck. Mr. Tickle with all those arms, though. Whoa, he gets in there.
Hey. Mr. Tickle only had 2 arms. They were just very, very long.
Tickly.
That's true. That is true. Yeah, look, it's a publicity kind of thing, like stunt, and I think, at its core, these are murderers. They are assassins. Their job is to kill people. Maybe I'm just being a bit too precious about it, but
how else do you expect kids to learn about death?
True.
You can't get Bluey in France.
Oh, what I want to know is that the original author of the first Mr. Men books was... I just ignored that, Peter, moved on. Roger Hargreaves was the original creator of the Mr. Men books. These are by Adam Hargreaves, so I'm assuming his son, or maybe
that's his son,
his director.
It's his son.
Yeah, which then I have an issue, and this could be a whole different podcast, and I won't go into it, but I've got a real issue with it. Got an issue with where the Henson Puppet Company have gone with their son after Jim passed away, took over.
When you think about the disappointment you are to your dad.
Okay, wait, different podcast.
Right.
Steered it in a more adult direction, took it in directions.
Are those puppets fucking as well?
They are now. They did that terrible, that like a grown-up movie, Something Street, with Melissa McCarthy, where the puppets were
that's
fucking.
right.
Yeah. They totally ruined Muppets, and that is a Henson production company film. The films have never been as good. The Muppets have never been as good, and this is what's happening here. You're having the son come through and sell out his father or parents' lineage, creative history to the highest bidder, which in this case happens to be an assassin simulator game. Peter, your thoughts?
Wow. I was not expecting that kind of defense.
I take the light news very seriously.
Yeah, you're right that it is a publicity thing. And everything else, I don't know what to say to you, bud. You live in the wrong world.
Breaker 406 does make a good point. Avenue Q, I believe, was done in part with the Henson Company.
If you talk shit about Avenue Q, I
haven't seen it, but I've heard it's great. So that's the only one I'm saying is a redeeming factor. Although I would put that down more to the writers who did like the music writing for like Book of Mormon and stuff like that. So less about the actual company. But anyway, that's my puppet and children's book rant over.
As long as their sons don't get any work.
Yeah, do you have opinions nearly as passionate about Gus about this story?
Yes, I love these, and I'm going to buy them all.
Peter, that'll be me in 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Wink and a nod.
Look, I'd forgotten Mr. Men existed. I don't have kids, so
that makes sense.
So I was like, I don't see a problem with this. I think they're cute. I would buy Mr. Men Master Chief in a second.
If you look at what they're doing, so you got Cassandra down the bottom there, has a bow and arrow, but it has the little like plunger
suction cap.
Eivor seems to have a legit axe, and she's fucking angry, like she's racing towards someone. But then Ezio, potentially, it's more about the discovery of like he's flying
Da Vinci's.
around.
Is that him about to do the swan dive?
Yeah.
Is that him about to do the dive off the when he leaps off the Ezio pose?
Oh, sorry, on the book.
No,
yeah,
sorry,
but the one of him
book.
flying using Da Vinci contraptions.
Oh, right. Yeah. Sorry, yeah. I went the one in the book. My final anecdote about Mr. Men is that I did actually then not just enjoy them in my youth, but they turned into a really good thing to add to a present for like an 18th or a 21st, where you got them something, but then instead of a card, you'd buy them the Mr. Men or Little Miss book that represented them the best, and I'd sign that as a card. So I'd give people like Mr. Tickle. I don't know. I'm trying to think of another one that represented a friend of mine, but I thought they were a really fun way to use it.
You've only got ticklish friends.
Yeah, exactly. Like Miss Grumpy, I would give to my sister every year. So there you go.
I have zero feelings towards this. I think it's cool, and also I mean I can't summon up any kind of passion in the same way that Gus does, but I commend you for having strong feelings on this.
I look forward to the Dr. Seuss authored Gears of War series to come out next year as well.
Again, I would not have a problem with that.
That is very funny.
I will not chainsaw him in the neck. I will not chainsaw him in the I didn't think that through, but yeah, there's something there.
That is so funny. A durag. Yes, I can. A durag you can wear anywhere. Good. I would love to see more of that sort of crossover stuff. It's a very funny collaboration, and if it goes well, I'm sure we'll see a ton of other Ubisoft related. The funny thing is that it's happening with Assassin's Creed when they own a series like Rabbids, and like built with this. But this is built for us to buy these books. Gus, you've had another thought.
A do-rag on my head will not fit. My neck's too thick. I will put that do-rag on my...
Well done.
Watch
thank
the rest
you for
of
watching.
Pocket.
Yes, thank you for watching Back Pocket. Well done.
Good.
Oh my goodness. The fact that you stopped the conversation to come up with that is the most you thing. Earlier when we were talking about Cyberpunk, you were like, sorry, not to derail the conversation and segue for a second. I'm like, that is your
That's
MO.
all you do.
That is how you have
You even interrupt yourself to do that.
That's right.
An iconic moment that should be on a t-shirt. And that is literally all the video game news that has happened this week. There is nothing else you need to know.